Success of an entrepreneur.
We've raised the bar.
Learn firsthand from successful business owners and create your own path to success.
I'm going to show you how great I am.
It's time to hit the road to growth with team lead of the Enriquez Group, Realtor Vinny.
Hi, you Realtor Growth listeners. Today I have Dante White. He is the founder of, how do you say Oppuous?
Yeah, Oppuous, yeah.
Oppuous, okay. You just think octopus. I mean,
Yep.
Everything has octopus.
Oppuous, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. And a big fan of the color blue. So these are some fun facts that we're going to be picking up throughout this podcast. Thank you, Dante, for being here today.
For sure. Thanks for having me, Vinny.
So I know before we got on mic, we kind of talked a little about like what Oppuous does. And I think like fairly unique, I guess, because maybe not as unique as I think, but it seems unique that you have basically you leverage the technology aspect of it in-house, but you also leverage basically energy stuff like solar and things like that. So that's something that I haven't really heard of, that combination of both, but walk us through kind of what you guys do.
Yeah, definitely. So Oppuous stands for an opportunity for you is an opportunity for us. And that's really the namesake and really the genesis of what we do, right? So we'll hop into that at the tail end and explain what that means. But what we do for businesses is we help them find and procure the best software, hardware, and energy solutions for their businesses. It could be a one user shop. It could be hundreds of thousand users, multinational corporations. We've got relationships with over, 1,000 different vendors, thousands of solutions. And the best part about it is we've got a portal where you can find it all, kind of like Amazon. So you can see side-by-side comparisons of stuff. You're looking for, you're in real estate, contract management service, right? And you can see side-by-side different solutions with ratings. If you see what you like, you click and buy and it's done. It's good to go. If you need extra help, we've got engineering staff and cloud specialists nationwide, right? And so the whole purpose of the organization is really to save organizations time and money in finding and managing their software, hardware, and energy, right? Every business needs to have these things. And what we've done is we've actually gone out and we've gotten all the certifications to satisfy diversity requirements. So we've got a minority business, emerging small business, hub zone, et cetera. So for organizations that are looking to satisfy their diversity requirements, we do that. And then we reinvest a portion of every sale back into minority, veteran, and women-based businesses. Hence the name. An opportunity for you is an opportunity for us. It's the organizations are going to buy this stuff. And we found it was a really good, compelling conversation to have is, if you're going to buy this, right, like Microsoft or Zoom or something, right, and it's not going to cost you any money. And if you could support a good cause by doing it, why not? And if you can make it easier on yourself and possibly save some money too, it just makes a ton of sense.
And we're probably going to get to this more. We're going to get to your story. I'm just kind of intrigued, especially by the aspect of the technology, the energy. I mean, is there a business model for how long you depreciate that purchase? I mean, it takes for you, because that stuff seems like it's changing every like couple of years. So like in 5 years, 10 years, that stuff that you already bought is going to be almost obsolete. So, I mean, do you guys have like a time frame of how long it takes to depreciate the asset?
Yeah, so it really kind of depends on what state you're in and all that stuff. There's different types of tax incentives that are going on, outside of like federal incentives and things of that nature. And I'm not a tax accountant per se, but a lot of our clients will help them with an OPEX model instead of a CAPEX model, right? And so they can use it as, instead of, maybe purchasing some of the equipment, they can rent it out as part of their monthly reoccurring. So that's usually a really popular way to go about it because of that. And then also, technology ages, equipment ages. And so at the end of your contract, you want to refresh and get something new. And so you can easily do that. And so we have different types of options, but yeah, our team will definitely advise on what that depreciation could look like.
Now let's talk about you, Dante. I mean, growing up, were you into like technology? Were you into like gaming? Were you into energy? I mean, where's that correlation to where you are today?
Funny enough, so growing up, I was really into music and art. Like, you'll see I'm like covered in tattoos. If I didn't have my virtual background on, you'd see in the background I've got a drum set. Actually, I could probably turn that off right now, right? So, behind me, I've got all my musical equipment. I grew up playing the bass. I, play the trumpet. I play the drums. I've got some DJ equipment, and then, I even got a little piano, right? I always tell people, hey, look, I even play a little piano. Uh, but growing up, my interests were really artistic. I grew up in a single mother household for a number of years, and then she met my stepdad, who was in the Air Force. And my mom always had side hustles. She was a creative person. She would make ceramics, do custom cakes, stained glass, things like that. And I grew up being like kind of her helper on everything. And so, like, my background, realistically speaking, is art. In creativity, I just so happened to fall into technology, and I really liked it. It was really interesting for me to really understand how things mechanically worked. Growing up as a kid, I would kind of take stuff apart and to figure out how it worked, and this was a great way for me to kind of blend both of those things.
So what did it look like? So you're into music in a band, or just kind of doing it for your own part time? And then how did it come from music into technology?
Well, the funny story was I was actually running an auto body shop, and me and the business owner ended up having a falling out. He was my now ex-wife's father-in-law, or he was my father-in-law, and I was helping him build this business, and things weren't working out, so I left, and I needed a way to pivot. So I was like, all right, well, I was really good at running auto body shops. I'm kind of tired of doing that at this moment, and I saw technology as being the next big booming thing. I applied for a job. They said, cool resume, bro. You got no tech experience. So I ended up actually getting a job as a cold caller for various different technology companies because I needed to kind of get my feet into the industry. So I did that for about a year and a half, and kind of made a name for myself in the industry because I booked really great meetings for some of the biggest technology vendors in the game, and one of them picked me up, and I ended up working for them full time. I humbled myself and and smiled and dialed until I could get in there, right? And I went from making six figures, into some pretty humble beginnings just to do that. But I thought it was really important to kind of get myself really on the ground floor and really understand what I was doing before I jumped into it.
So you're selling the product now. Did you I guess, I mean, you have to understand the product before you can sell it. I mean, so did you have a background though? Were you like going back to school, or were you just kind of picking the stuff up and kind of learning as you go with the technology avenue of it?
Yeah, I was a learn as I go. So I would sit in on the calls after I'd book a meeting for like SAP, right, or Dell. And I would sit in on the calls and I would take tons of notes, and then I would Google it, at the same time as I'm doing it. Pull up YouTube videos, read the white papers that they would send over, so I could really educate myself into it. I'm a big nerd when it comes to education and cultivating any kind of craft that I have. If someone's going to take some time to educate me, I'm definitely going to take the time to listen to them. And that's really how I got into it, honestly. I was a fly on the wall for many, many calls. And then I started asking questions, and I would ask people if I could ride shotgun on sales calls with them. And then I'd start meeting with engineers and doing all kinds of different background trainings I'd, purchase for myself. That way I could really understand what it does, right? Like a lot of people get into sales and they know a little bit about it, right? But not everybody knows enough about it, and that's where a lot of people get a bad rap, right? They're like, this person doesn't know what they're doing. And I never wanted to be that guy. I just didn't want to be that.
You can definitely tell when the BS starts flowing, and you're like, okay, this guy has no clue what they're talking about.
Yeah.
So you're gaining the education, you're gaining the knowledge, you're doing well in sales. Now, when do you get the idea that, hey, you're going to make the jump and start your own brand?
So I originally started it in 2015 while I was still in corporate America. And I was like, I would really love to do my own thing. So I started kind of whiteboarding it. What could a company like this look like? How could I put it to market? The problem with things being a side hustle is that very first part of the word itself, side. If you put it on the side, it never becomes the main hustle. So you really have to, kind of put forth the effort. And having my son, being a single father, raising him and working and all that stuff, it didn't really lend itself well to it. So what ended up happening for me was what happened for a lot of people is COVID was the catalyst to push me over the edge. I got laid off in November of 2020, and I took a little bit of time to recharge my batteries, right? It was November, and I was like, I'm not going to get a job during the holiday season. I'm just going to ride this out into January, and then I'll start fresh, 2021. And at that point, I had run into um, some people I was networking with, and I actually started a completely different business that I still run today in the medical sector.
Mm.
And through the course of that, I started meeting with some pretty high end, hedge funds and venture capitalist firms and family offices, trading commodities during COVID, and kept getting a lot of answers into questions into technology. Like, hey Dante, we have this. What's the best way to make it work with this other program we have? And what's the best way to align on this? And it kind of got me thinking. I was like, hey, I could probably make that business that I was trying to start in 2015 a reality. So I made a couple of phone calls to some large technology partners, and put the plan into action. Right? They give me, because of the mission, and because of my agency and how it works in the industry itself. Um, the Microsofts, the Googles, the Zooms, the Ring Centrals of the world, etc. They pay for my technical resources. So I only need to have baseline knowledge of the client and what they're doing, and then when we get into the weeds of it, and if it becomes something super serious, like let's say cybersecurity, well then I bring in a larger vendor, and they bring in their specialists, and it doesn't cost the customers extra, because everybody's really in on what we're building here.
Wow.
Yeah.
What's the process? I mean, and I know it's the time frame, but what's the process of selling this idea? I mean, to all these heavy hitting companies right there. I mean, because now you're carrying their name with your product, and it makes it a little bit easier to sell, I guess, your product now.
Yeah, definitely. So the process was relatively quick. A lot of certain components were in place already, just by virtue of how the industry works in the background. But really, the thing that changed it was the marketplace that we brought to life. Right, having that Amazon-like marketplace, where somebody could come in and find any type of technology they could want and purchase it right there, instantly provision it. It's like, hey, Vinny's a new employee and he's in marketing, so we click the button for the marketing person, and it gives you Adobe, and it gives you your phones, and it gives you your Microsoft all in one shot, so you're not having to provision different licenses and make it a long process. So that part took the longest amount of time. I probably spent the better part of a year negotiating through those contracts to get that to come to life. But super happy that it did, because it simplifies everything for everybody. I mean, from that single portal, not only can you purchase, but you have your tier 1 support right there baked into it. And then through our relationships with the vendors, you get instantaneous tier 2 support. We call it the bat phone. So you're not having to, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, wait on hold for eons to try to get a hold of somebody. You can put a ticket in through our system. We'll take care of the tier 1. If it doesn't work out that way and you have to go above, then we can instantly get you into tier 2, tier 3 support. And so it's just it's easier and more convenient for every business owner that way.
Was there a moment that you felt like, okay, I made the right decision? This is something good for myself, good for kind of going forward?
I think every day is a part of that decision, right? I think that's like, okay, this is really working. But on that same side, being an entrepreneur, right, too, it's like every day is like, okay, there are a lot of things that aren't working, right? Like, I think a lot of times that, you hear these stories of entrepreneurship, we hear the tail end of when they become really successful, right? We don't hear like the trouble. We don't hear the waiting and being a bartender at night, doing odd jobs to make the cash flow work, nobody wants to tell those war stories, but that is a truth of it as well.
Well, let's talk about those war stories. What are some of the war stories that you had kind of worked through to get to this point?
Yes. So, cash flow is always, an issue, right? So bootstrapping the organization myself. I mean, I come from very humble beginnings, right? A single mother household when I was super young, and then being into an Air Force family, there wasn't, a ton of money. There's not a ton of connections. So I had to make it happen, right? And so during COVID, I sold some stock, purchased a piece of equipment, a company asset, so it could become a reoccurring stream. So I could rent that out to keep the lights on. Um, like I said, bartending too. I did lots of late nights bartending, doing odd jobs. I would go on like a Facebook marketplace and find a TV or a piece of furniture that someone was wanting to get rid of for free, and then I'd flip it, right, make a couple of quick bucks. And then right when I was hitting my good stride, and I was applying for financing, I had just gotten a pre-approved for a really nice loan to take my business to the next level. uh, the Silicon Valley Bank thing happened, and it
Mhm.
completely changed the trajectory of everything we're doing. And I mean, that was just a couple months ago, right? Um, and so like that was definitely been a big hurdle. So cash flow um, has always been a big thing, because these are long sales processes. They take a while, and it's kind of a feast or famine type of thing. So that's what I would probably say there.
What pushes you through or guides you through those tough times when you have those hiccups like that?
Yeah, great question, right? So, my son is probably the biggest factor. I don't know if you yourself, you have any children or a family or anything like that, but like for me, it's um, proving that we can do something bigger than ourselves is kind of the first part, right? Like it starts internally and your immediate surroundings. That's the biggest motivating factor for myself. The other part is the outreach that we get to do in the community. Like I said, a big part of what we do is we reinvest into, other entrepreneurships and businesses, right? Through trainings, through funding, through connecting people to larger resources so they can build out their dreams. And like watching people get to chase their dream and achieve their dream, it means the world to me, right? Someone gave me a chance when I was young, and I'm still relatively young. I got a little gray in my beard, but like if someone gave me a shot, and it means a lot for me to also do that for other people too, right? Like a lot of people say when I get rich, I'm gonna, give back. In my eyes, in my ideals, we do it every day, and that's what I teach my son. We give. We got $10, we can give $1. When we got $100, we can give 10. Stuff like that.
If you're waiting for the day to do something until you're rich, you're probably never going to do it.
Absolutely, that's the way I look at it. Is you got to start it now, right? It's like any habit that you have to create. Eating right, working out, reading books, whatever you want to do, you have to start it today. You can't wait till tomorrow, till it's convenient. There's never going to be a good time to do anything, right? There's never been a time in my life that's like, all right, now there's no problems, there's no issues, everything's good. Let's go. Let's go. There's always something, right? The times don't get easy, you just get tougher.
Yeah, I mean that's so true. I mean, I try to reframe it every time I feel like I'm stressed out. I go, oh, you know what? I'm growing. I'm growing as a
Yeah.
person. That's
Yeah.
So if we were talking in 5 years from now, where do you see your company going? Where do you see yourself going? And what are your plans?
Yeah, definitely. So 5 years from now, obviously continuing to grow the business in different aspects. We're just zeroing in on some pretty nice contracts right now. So one of them that we recently signed was in our energy division. We have the ability to do electric vehicle chargers for commercial properties
Oh,
for no cost out of pocket for any of the property owners themselves. We got a venture capital group. We've got 5 of them that back the endeavor, which makes it instant top line revenue for those businesses. So for us, it's really innovating different ways to make things equitable. Like I said, for me, it is trying to find the most conscientious way possible to do business. And that's one of them. So I can see a really big dive into energy, right? We're using not only the electric vehicle chargers at no cost for commercial properties, but we're also helping small rural parts of Colorado uh, install solar at no cost and become their own power providers, right? And then that way they can become sufficient on their own, right? Because there's a lot of parts of this country that are still pretty destitute in general, but after COVID, it really wrecked them. So we're working on advanced projects like that. The other part is taking this concept and almost franchising it in a way.
hmm.
So I have the ability now through a recent contract that I signed to create other entities underneath myself. So if there's other people who want to also resell technology, have their own managed service business, they could easily do it plug and play based off of the contracts that we already have in place, based off of the marketplace that we already have set up, and just do the heavy lifting, right? Plug and play.
What does that look like? I mean, so because have you already built out the game plan of teaching another person to build their own company under your brand or build under, I guess, your structure?
I say yes and no, right? And it's not really so I've got like a whiteboard concept of it. I've got a call coming up here in about an hour to finalize some things of training. I'm working with outside training company. That way we can create some standard operating procedures to do so. And from that vantage point, right, like they would be reselling the marketplace and their ability to do so. Those companies could use their very own logo if they wanted to, right? Like it could be Vinny's IT Depot or whatever. We're not attached to the name itself. We're really more attached to the concept of helping entrepreneurs do their own thing. Now, if they want to actually go through and be an Oppuous partner and be part of our thing, that's also an option too. But for me, it's not an ego thing of like, oh, you have to have our logo, or it doesn't matter. Everybody's got their own vision of how they want to do it. We're just giving them the structure and the guidance.
Well, so what would that structure look like? I mean, have you built? I mean, I know you said you have a call in a little bit, and based on the time that people are listening to the podcast, I mean, it might already be out there. You might already have a couple of people kind of using this model. But curious, I mean, how much of your day is focused on the current opportunities and maintaining them relative to future opportunities you're kind of building out like this?
Yeah. So right now, I would probably say 75% of going for like gaining new business momentum and stuff like that. 25% of it is, building out the current structure of, building out the book of business, and thing like that, and like maintaining relationships. For the folks that come on as agent model, the marketplace, the contracts are already in place. So all they have to do is bring in relationships and customers, and then we do all the heavy lifting. Like I said, the technology companies back us 100%. So we'll just say like a Microsoft will give us engineering staff for projects. Will give us cloud specialists and concierge, white glove, support when it comes to onboarding and bringing in new customers, and also supporting those customers as well. So, they give us all the resources that we need, the big vendors, not just them, but, all types of, technology companies. And then that way it allows us to scale this endeavor out, because it really helps them too, right? It is a win-win benefit. They don't have to, we're agents, so they don't have to pay our health insurance. They don't pay for the foosball table, or the lunches and all that stuff, right? And so they save a little bit of money, and bring in additional revenue to their bottom line too.
Where do you see those fields going? Technology, energy, like you talked about. I mean, where do you see those fields going in the coming future?
Well, I mean, it's not going anywhere, right? I joke whenever I'm at a conference or some kind of networking event. People are like, "What do you do?" I'm like, "Technology," and they're like, "Well, what do you mean by that?" I'm like, "Well, it's easier if I learn what your business does, because every business uses technology." And at some point, right, like there's usually like a cup in my hand of water or something, like this water bottle, and it's like, hey, at some point, this water bottle is going to have sensors inside of it, and it's going to tell me the ambient temperature of the water. It'll tell me, how full it is, and it'll say where the nearest like water fountain is, right? And it's just going to keep growing in that nature. I mean, we see AI is really big nowadays. Chat GPT has helped, AI become a namesake on the on the regular everyday to day person. Us in technology have known AI has been around for a very long time, right? And just a lot of people have used it and not known it. And so we're just going to see continual streamlines of different ways for people to do business. I mean, I see it in the real estate business, using AI to increase customer sentiment right? When they call in, they know exactly, who the person is, what they want, the last thing they talked about. It'll route them correctly, all that stuff, things of that nature. So, I mean, technology is just going to get deeper and deeper, and you can't turn a blind eye to it. So we help, companies really navigate those waters, right? Because you can't know everything. As your business is, selling houses, you can't know everything about technology. If your business is, building automobiles, you can't know everything outside of what it is, the technologies that you have to use specifically in that field.
Being that yourself and your team are on the cutting edge of technology, right? What's coming, because you have to be, right? If you're going to be leasing out these products or selling these products, what for people listening right now that are in, like you said, maybe a similar line of business or a different line of business, but they're using some sort of technology, what would you say are some of the best platforms for people to stay up to date on products that are coming and products that are working well for their industry?
Yeah, so we give out our marketplace, and any of your viewers and listeners can get access to the marketplace at no cost.
Okay.
So you can always see what's going on in the land of technology when it comes to that. I always recommend listening to podcasts like this, and finding out it's industry specific for what's going on into your place. Other types of blogs, we write we're putting out a blog post maybe once a week, every other week, sometimes multiple, where we're talking about emerging technologies as well. So, if you follow our page, then you'll, learn a lot of tips and tricks of things that are coming down the pipeline as well. And I would definitely say for anybody that, and doesn't matter what business they're in, definitely make sure that your cybersecurity realm is very well buttoned up. We do a complimentary audit for anybody. Look, we've never met a single person that was in compliance.
Yeah.
Point blank period. Like, people are like, "Oh, we're good." I'm like, "You're not." Like, trust me, you're not. It doesn't matter what you have going on. There's always a good time to take a look at it again.
Well, thank you, Dante, so much. For people listening that are looking to find more information about Dante, go in the show notes. You're going to find information about his company, about him, about LinkedIn, all those different platforms. So go in the show notes. Any last words of wisdom if someone's listening right now, where they should go? Or I know you already talked about it, the blogs and things like that. But any kind of last words of wisdom where people should go to find you?
Yeah, we're on all social media, channels: LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, everything Oppuous. It's Oppuous. Also oppuous.com, Oppuous.com. If you want that marketplace complimentary for your business, just /marketplace. Go to the website, you'll see that is there as well. We're always really, really excited to dive in with people. We give a complimentary audit of your entire environment. So it's an hour-long session. We talk about where you are today, where you want to go tomorrow, and then we build a strategic roadmap of how to do that together. And I mean, you don't have to, stick with us. You can do whatever you want to do, but it's always a good idea to get a refresher and get the guidance of where you're moving towards.
Get one last question just to finish this off.
Yeah.
Do you have any future plans of using your music background to correlate it with Oppuous, do an album, anything like that? I had someone before that did something like that, but I was sure.
It's actually funny that you say that, right? So, part of my background is concert promotion and doing, music and playing it myself and putting on shows. So there is, we're working right now with a blockchain company to put out a clothing line. With that clothing line, they'll have near field communication NFC chips where you can touch your phone to it and see that it is an authentic piece of, gear. Part of the proceeds will go back to donate to the same cause that we're doing. And those people will get an NFT. So they'll get a digital version of that, piece of clothing. So it'll be, somewhat collectible. And we're talking to some DJs about kind of doing a co-brand launch where we'll kind of go on a mini tour.
Nice.
Get an inflatable octopus as the DJ booth, and and do it, because it's a lot of fun. It's not always about the technology and business, right? Like, it's about the passion and the creativity that goes behind everything as well.
I love it, man. Well,
Yeah.
Thank you again, Dante, for being here. Hopefully everyone listening got some great nuggets right there. Go in the show notes, go find Dante, go find Oppuous. I mean, just like he said, I mean, everyone probably can need them. It's just a matter of if you're willing to take the jump and learn where your strengths are and learn where your weaknesses are, because we all have a lot of them. Thank you again, guys. Please subscribe, please share, and go find Dante.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Vinny.